Prices are also accompanied by higher food costs, and they're becoming a burden that many South Africans simply cannot afford. Given the ever-increasing cost of living, many people find themselves forced to adjust and adapt their lifestyles. My colleagues, as reporters Manqoba Mchunu, Nobesuthu Hejana and Nqobile Madlala, today tracking developments in different parts of the country, checking how people are faring during these tough economic times. Nqobile, you first up this hour. Thank you very much for your time. What saving tips have you been given by people in the city so far today?
Well, quite many, Britain, I must tell you. I think one of the big ones, though, was that when we spoke to a lady who told us that stocking up is actually the right way to buy. She says that she buys in bulk, and she basically buys for 6 months. So this is the way to buy. She says she buys when it's Black Friday, she buys for 6 months, and she says she buys quite a lot, and therefore every month she spends about 1,000 rand just to top up to many of the things that she might need. But also we heard from some of the students that were also saying that they're cutting back on data, and maybe that's the way to go forward. But when we spoke to people that are debt councillors, they were telling us, Britain, that it's very important to live by your means. They were saying that it's important that you look at what you have, budget it out before saying that this is what you can add in terms of entertainment and things that you want and don't necessarily need. But let's listen in as some of the people explain further.
So don't spend money when it's on its normal price, and don't be fooled by big red stickers that are saying it's a promotion, when in fact sometimes it's not really a promotion. So you buy for your long term to have your long life stuff, and then as the months go, you're able to just top up on the essential stuff that you really need, and that's what stretches your rand. You look at catalogs, you look at the different stores, look what their promotions are, you compare, you make your list. Any extra money that you have that's attributed to your groceries, you take that extra and you say, this month I'm going to top up on long life milk. I'll put it towards long life milk that will last me for the next 6 months. So for the next 6 months, I don't need to buy milk. So for the next 6 months, that portion that was attributed to milk, you can now top up on maize meal. And so the wheel goes.
Now, let's bring you, Manqoba. I understand you're in Durban. You've also been talking to some people there at eThekwini. How are they cutting back?
Well, but then there's quite a lot of, ways that people in Durban say they will be trying to perhaps, cushion the blow of those increasing, cost of living, that's electricity as well as water and fuel. And one of those ways, but then we spoke to some residents here in Durban who were at one of the establishments, that's a restaurant, who just spoke about going out often, saying that they're going to have to cut down on some of the luxuries that they currently are doing. And that includes going out. So some of the options, Britain, is of course, spacing out the time that you will be going out, perhaps going once in 2 weeks instead of going out once every week. But then one of the ladies that I spoke to also making a suggestion, Britain, that we need to perhaps look at also, hosting people indoors, having dinners indoors rather than going out and splurging more money outside. But also when it comes to fuel, we spoke to several motorists, Britain, who told us that they will be looking at options of perhaps not traveling too much and cutting down on traveling. And also when it comes to those who are going to work, they're saying that they're also going to exploring perhaps using public transport or even using lift clubs to try and perhaps mitigate those costs. But when it comes to buying of goods at supermarkets of perishable goods that we use daily, some people saying that they're going to be also considering looking at bulk buying as a way of going forward, but also using some of those coupons and some of those specials from the shops to actually try and cope with these increasing prices. But take a listen, Britain, to what some of them had to say to me earlier on.
Traveler sizemsebenzini no izosafutha kakhulu ever since nje kunyuka ama price ematekisi imhola inyuka first of all, so it's going to be a big problem. Ukudla kukhuphukile, prices are going, but umholo awuholi, siya affecteka kakhulu alokhu ushintsho, you understand. And then Siyabona thina esisebenzayo, just think about laba bangasebenzi. You understand today? People are waiting for imali efanele ifakwe government pending even right now.
Got to plan better, and I think we have to cut down on lots of things. Maybe not so many new clothes, maybe less luxurious foods, maybe start growing our own food.
Our parents ngizame kakhulu naqala ngithole like double job ekumele singithole ngoba even nama-salaries ethu awanyuki okwamanje izinto ziyanyuka kodwa asithole ilokhuzana imali.
Nobesuthu, in the mother city, how are things looking there?
Well, but then the option of growing your own food in your backyard is something that we also told about when we spoke to a gentleman from Fishhook earlier this morning. And he also said that buying food that have expired is not also a bad idea because they do have a lifespan of up to about 9 months, according to him, or even a year. But we're now in Pero just to speak to Kelly Mackenzie. She's a teacher by profession. Kelly, obviously this time around, I was actually chatting to your boys earlier on, and they were telling me that they were supposed to be on holiday. Just talk to us about some of the budgeting that you've had to make due to the tough times, the fuel hikes, and the food prices that are constantly going up.
Hi. So obviously it's school holidays, and usually during school holidays we go off to Caledon Spa and treat ourselves. But shame, the poor boys, unfortunately we have to stay indoors. So we've made this space at home quite comfortable for them. We do a lot of board gaming, we play a lot of pool tournaments, we've started doing some chess, that sort of thing, because we just cannot afford to drive all the way to Caledon and then pay that exorbitant prices just for lodging. Also, just as far as budgeting is concerned, this has been a hell of a ride. A hell of a ride. We've had to learn to now budget and budget really well. So, for example, as far as school clothes is concerned, I have 3 little boys, and thank God they're all at the same school, but there are mommies at the school who have now started a Facebook page and a WhatsApp group where we now chop and change school clothes amongst each other so that we can kind of save money. Furthermore, we don't do a big full grocery shop anymore. I have to go to places where there are specials. As far as petrol's concerned, let's not even talk about that. I drive a big car, but thank God I'm 5 minutes away from school, from work. So usually I just hope and pray that my husband's filled up the car. But if not, I just make sure that I go to work and back. And for any of the longer distances, for example, picking up the kids, dropping them at rugby practices, he has a smaller car, so he's got to make sure that he does the long hauls so that we can save on fuel.
And I understand you've also had to cancel your gym membership subscription, which is something that, I mean, I wouldn't survive not going to the gym because I need someone to tell me what to do every time. So how is it working out for you?
Yeah, so unfortunately with COVID lockdown, we've had to already start watching what we're doing with the gym. But then about a few days ago, I had a mild stroke, and I need to now obviously change my lifestyle. So I needed to get back to the gym, but I cannot afford it anymore. So what we've now done is we've bought a whole lot of second-hand, like a spinning bike, a climber, Orbitrek, and we've now converted one of the boys' rooms into a gym room, and all my boys are now bunking in the same room. So the one thing that it's done is, yes, we are cash strapped, but it has definitely brought us closer together, just as a family, as a unit.
All right, thank you very much. Well, Braden, that was Kelly, and talking about some of those drastic changes that they've had to make. Outside, the boys are playing board games, 30 seconds. There's also a pool table inside the house, and like she said, she has had to convert one of the boys' room into a gym room because they can't simply afford to go to the gym anymore due to trying to save every penny that they can.
Hopefully Nobesuthu can take a few lessons from that. Instead of you also spending money at the gym, you could convert one of your corners there in your home into some kind of a gym. Nqobile, in Johannesburg, I understand some residents were also telling you about their experiences. What did they say?
Well, Brian, a lot of the residents also are going through that bit. They are feeling the pinch. So it's quite clearly out there. In fact, when we were speaking to them, they were talking about obviously cutting down on all measures. They spoke about the data cutting down. They looked at certain things like walking. There's quite a lot that was coming out. I mean, one gentleman spoke to me and he said, as the head of the family, he worries because even though he has cut down, it becomes very difficult because at the end of the day, he still needs to take care of his family. And I think what was also interesting is that as we spoke to the debt collector, she started saying that because the fuel price has gone so much up, she says that this will affect the food prices and so on. And she was saying that quite a lot of South Africans are seen to be in debt at the moment. So it's quite interesting to see that even the debt collectors, they're saying that in the recent research that they were doing, and just about 2 months ago, they were seeing that South Africans are already in debt and it's becoming a problem. And she was saying it's not going to stop anytime soon. But let's listen in some more.
It's tough to be on the side of a working class where everything is going up except the salaries. So it's very hard.
Because of economical circumstances, you try and find something that you can start from home, like a small business, maybe a vendor or something. But unfortunately, the cost of living is extremely high, especially with the huge responsibility of kids as well as our elderly people, you know, surviving on a very, very steep pension.
I just asked my employer to work from home, and I also moved from my apartment going home to cut on rent because fuel is expensive and food is also going up.
Well, Manqoba, I understand some people are still talking about savings. You spoke to a wealth manager. I wonder how much savings one can do under these circumstances. What is the take of the wealth manager?
Well, pretend quite a lot. In fact, he had quite a lot to say about how people can actually readjust their budgets. He says that this is very important given that, we are going to be facing these difficult times. So one will need to have a proper budget. If you don't have a budget, now this is the time that you need to actually work out a budget, know exactly how much you're spending and how much that you're going to need for the month so that you will be able to meet those new costs that are going to come into effect. But also on the issue of, going out, pretend again, he emphasized the fact that people have to cut on those luxuries. They have to relook the issue of luxuries and perhaps look at how they can then look at other means in which they can, engage in those particular activities. But importantly, Pradev, save, save, save. That's what he says we all should be doing at this particular point. And even if it means that if you save a few cents, a few rands on that piggy bank, that's the way that we should be doing things given those rising costs. But take a listen to some of the advice that he gave and the tips that he gave to consumers.
South Africans, we enjoy going out, we enjoy the social life. Maybe just cutting back, instead of going out once every week, maybe make it once every 2 weeks. Cut back on the spending habits, so instead of buying X brand, you buy Y brand, which may be a little bit cheaper. There's many ways that we can do it. Rather have in-house functions, so have a bride home instead of going out to dinner, something like that, which will obviously manage to cut back on those costs. You need to look at the brands that you're purchasing. I know it's very hard for South Africans to switch brands, but shop around. There are a lot of specials out there. Use the loyalty programs that the shops have on offer for us. You can make a lot of money back or save a lot of money if you use those programs. So yeah, rework your budget, look at online subscriptions that you've got, try to cut back on them as much as you possibly can. And yeah, keep an eye on your money. If you're managing your money well and you're watching it every month, you will find little ways to cut back and save a bit.
Manqoba, thank you very much for that advice from the wealth manager. And thank you as well to Nobesuthu Hejana there in Paro in Cape Town. She's learned now how to save and not go to the gym herself. And Nqobile Madlala in Johannesburg as well. Thank you for that update.